Thank you very much. And Marc, how do you see the role of Europe in Syria, but also in other matters, in stabilizing? Europe had quite a role with, it started with Catherine Ashton. She negotiated with Iran in Kazakhstan and so on, and the whole to lower the tension between Israel and Iran. So how do you see, what are the trumps and the weaknesses of European diplomacy to deal with the Middle East?
Okay, thank you, Renaud, for this question. You're quite representative of the region. It's a region with conflicting rules and norms. We have the WPC rule, 6 minutes per speaker, but you said don't abide by this norm. So there's the Renaud Girard norm and rule. It's 2 minutes to start, plus the strategic surprise with the unexpected question. So let me just say 4 short things to begin and launch the conversation. First, as Volker also mentioned, Europeans are really divided, especially on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So for instance, 12 members of the EU have recognized a Palestinian state, including 3 recently, Slovenia, Ireland, and Spain, and the rest, the 15 others, have not. So that's an example. Even within EU's institutions, you see the divisions. So now we have a new commission, but if you took the previous one, between the president of the commission and the high representative, you could see that there were different lines and different takes on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but also on the broader region. So that's the first point. The second point is that for years we've heard, especially again on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that Europe was a payer but not a player. It means that the influence has been waning over the past 3 decades. It was a harsh statement, not totally wrong, but that can be nuanced, because Europe indeed paid for a number of infrastructures that were later destroyed by the Israeli Defense Forces in different occasions. But Europe also tried to be a player. And for instance, it did try to launch a real state-building project in the Palestinian territories. We had, for instance, a mission to try and build a police force in the Palestinian territories. We also had EU-BAM mission for the management of the border. So there are still elements that remain from these efforts, but in general, it's true that it failed. I mean, we don't have a state so far, and we can try and analyze the different responsibilities, but the end result is here. We don't have a state, and these state-building efforts have failed. The third thing that I want to say is that it's a tricky issue for several European countries to deal with this region because there are domestic consequences. It's true in Germany with these refugees, but not only the refugees, there are also domestic political forces that are very much involved in this issue. It's true in France. We also have a lot of demonstrations and tensions and polarization. It's true outside of the EU in the UK, where, by the way, the demonstrations were much, much bigger than in France and Germany. So policy makers in the different countries have to take that into account. And then to end on a positive note, I would say that the Europeans, that divisions can also be understood and seen as a diversification with different clouds in different areas and different countries, if you want to see the sunny side of the coin. But let's say that we still have some economic clout. We saw it in the first, actually, presentation of the WPC on the first day, with many countries in the region that still have the EU in general as the main economic partner. We still have some kind of diplomatic clout. And for instance, France was involved in the recent ceasefire deal in Lebanon, even though it can be discussed, of course, but it still exists a little bit. And we still have even a military presence in different countries, including in Lebanon with UNIFIL. I mean, there are still 1,000 Italians there, 800 French soldiers, almost 600 Spaniards, 400
But they never
Irish.
stopped one missile of Hezbollah going to Israel.
Then the problem is the mandate. But the presence is there. You can still reinforce the mandate. I mean, it would take a lot of diplomacy again to reach that. But I think we should not be only negative on the waning influence of Europe and try to build on what's left and what still exists.
So very good answer for an unexpected question, and with hope on top of that. But I would insist, Mohammed, I would ask you, because you have seen, you know, Oslo Agreement was signed in Washington. Abraham Accords were signed in Washington. Reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran has been signed in Beijing. So my question is, has Europe definitely missed the train or not? Can Europe run after the train? Or?
There is no one train. I mean, the region, unfortunately, is brimming with conflict, so many trains for Europe. But if I go from Oslo to Stockholm, what are the main train stops that we've seen from Europe? The one thing the region possibly looks up to Europe is that huge experiment with the Marshall Project in Germany. Nothing similar to it anywhere in the region. You know, with all due respect to the attempt to help the Palestinians in capacity building, but there's nothing similar to the... so I think until now, Europe is dealing with the region, with the old toolbox that are fit for an analog phone, not to a digital phone. So we need to bring back the economic aspect into this, and I think there is a lot to be done, and again, Syria is one place. I think the second thing is that Europe needs to play the role of the facilitator rather than the role of the polarizer. And by that I mean, you don't expect, you know, if I'm going to support Palestine or Syria or other, they will have to adapt to all of the norms of Europe. We need to have other people work with it. It's not a problem if China is going to support the de-escalation, or Russia is going to the de-escalation, or you know, India or whoever. You need more people on the bump rather than thinking that this belongs to us. This is something that needs to be done based on our rules. And again, the US has been always in the region, but I think we have a problem with follow-up. That was the problem with Oslo. That was the problem with Stockholm. That's even the problem with the Abrahamic Accords. We haven't seen a very strong leadership from the US to follow up on this, making it happen, make the basis on which it was done still maintain it's well. So we will need that type of thing. And I'm intrigued by your reference to UNIFIL not stopping a single missile, because the French Navy was around Lebanon and it never stopped one missile coming from Israel to Lebanon. So again, this is an idea of how do we maintain statehood and maintain integrity of a state. How can we build it and make it an internal? Because that's the biggest problem we're going to face in the region, between a state, a nation state, and between a nation. A nation goes across states, and that's what the nation of, this is what the Muslim Brotherhood wanted to do. This is what Iran with its Shiism wanted to do. This is, even what Al-Qaeda and ISIS wanted to do. But we need to establish the role of a nation state with its border and its relationship to other nation states. And I think this is exactly what we wanted from Syria under Bashar al-Assad. This is exactly what we want from Syria under, the new leadership.